I'm Marie Wallace, and I was just on the Smarter Online Safety podcast where I found myself sharing a hack that happened to me.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Smarter Online Safety Podcast. I am your host, Jocelyn King, the Queen of Online Safety, and we have a special edition for you in this episode. I am so happy to have with me Marie Wallace. Marie is not our typical guest on here as a cybersecurity expert or government official. Marie is an inspiring speaker. She's a passionate educator and a highly sought after transformational coach. And she combines that background with her proven brave thinking technology to help clients achieve really extraordinary results in accelerated time and helping people transform their lives and close the gap between the life they were living and a life they absolutely love living. And she offers these interactive workshops that take participants on a journey to design and define and test and experience the crystal clear vision of the life they would really love and something that's aligned with their highest purpose. And that is why I was particularly so upset to hear how she was targeted by cyber criminals. You know, when you're doing something as meaningful and as helpful to people as that, and then looking to have your life devastated, which happens every 37 seconds to someone in the world, having their life devastated by cybercrime. And Marie has a harrowing story. And so, Marie, I just want to thank you so much for the work you're doing. And thank you for coming here to tell us your story.
Well, thank you, Jocelyn. I feel really blessed to be here with you today and for asking me to share this because I think it's going to be huge for your audience to hear.
Yes. So what kind of experience was it? You know, there's a lot of different types of scams out there, and you want to talk about this was a computer and a phone call center scam?
Yeah, definitely. It was something I've never experienced before. Definitely scares you, um, makes it very believable,
No.
and especially when you're not expecting it, and you just, you have this feeling of fear that you've never felt before when something like this happens.
Wow. Well, thank you. And you just defined the hacker's playbook for
Mm.
everybody because that is how they operate. It's something that catches you, when you least expect it, something that's never happened to you before, but it seems familiar because you talk to call centers and you do things like that. And they get you into a fight or flight response so that you will respond. I mean, I have to say, I have trained with a lot of people in mindset. I know a lot of therapists, and I was a marketer and know a lot of people in marketing. And I have to say, hackers understand human psychology better than any of those groups because
Yeah.
they have fine-tuned it into a $10.5 trillion
Wow.
annual economy. I mean, if cybercrime were a country, it would be third only to the US and China. That is how big cybercrime
That's
is.
amazing. Yes.
So you are, but what happened to you is happening almost, I mean, like every minute to people everywhere. And it's coming for everybody listening. And that's why I'm so grateful for you for sharing us. So
Oh, yeah.
can you take us back to the beginning? What were you doing when this started?
Right. So basically, I was just doing my work, minding my own business.
You were on your computer?
I was on the computer.
Okay.
I actually was helping out my daughter and son-in-law. They took over my husband's company. And so I've been helping them right now doing their books, working with customers, invoicing, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Uh, I had the Gmail open
Hmm.
and I was getting ready to start making calls for routes for that upcoming week. And I just opened up the list of names. And the second I clicked on the list, I got this loud, like this message that popped up on my screen with this loud noise beeping, blaring, like sirens going off and saying, don't use your computer. You've been hacked. Call us right away. And they had this 800 number up on the screen. And
And it had a logo on it,
it had
probably.
a logo on it. It
Mhm.
was from whatever my internet, computer, I
Your
just,
internet service provider.
yeah, my
Okay.
service provider. And what I didn't notice at the time was the misspelling in some of the wording
Right.
at the
However,
bottom.
that's going away with AI, so that won't even be a way to detect it moving forward.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't even notice at first, but the blaring sirens, I couldn't turn it off. I couldn't get my computer to go off. So I
And I
was
just want to say right then, so you see that technique there, it gets your adrenaline going.
right.
Right? It gets it, and for everybody going through that, you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta stop this. And you immediately go into your fight or flight
I
spot.
was definitely going into fight or flight because I was alone.
Yeah.
There was no one in the warehouse, no one in the office. My son-in-law was on a route. My daughter wasn't there. Um, I panicked.
I was gonna say that you're feeling fear and panic and
Oh, lots
God,
of fear.
yeah,
I'm like, what did I just do? I was thinking that I did something wrong
right.
when I clicked on the computer. Like,
That's also part of the psychology is,
yeah,
unless, I mean, even IT people, they do a slightly more sophisticated version to IT people, but they do the same thing where they're then telling them they're using the language of technology to make them feel they did something wrong. And nobody wants to be the person who did something wrong. So they're,
right,
again, they're
right.
preying on our psychology as human beings. Yeah.
Exactly. And it was Microsoft. It said, call Microsoft right. So of course you're
And then it
believing.
gives you the
Yeah.
Microsoft number, right? The
Yeah,
800
the
number, which
800
is not
number from
Microsoft, but yes.
Microsoft calling my, so I called the 800 number, what anyone would probably do in those certain situations. And I got a man on the phone named John Foster, and he gave me his ID number.
Apologies to any real men named John Foster.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
No, no, it's great. No, because that's important because
Yeah,
it's better than John Doe, which would
yeah.
sound a little too obvious,
Right. He
So,
actually had a legitimate last name, and he
yep.
said he was from the fraud department of Microsoft. And the first thing he said is that I cannot make any phone calls, that they can hear everything that we're saying. So he didn't want to stay on the phone on my landline for the business. He wanted me to talk on my cell phone. So he asked me for my cell phone number. And of course, I gave him my cell phone number.
Mhm.
And we
Well, because you would trust Microsoft, since
Right. I
you're
trust
thinking this is
Microsoft, right?
Microsoft.
I'm
Yes.
thinking, okay, he showed me how to turn off told me what to do to get rid of that loud blaring noise, how to turn off the computer. So he did tell me,
And they
uh,
worked. It did turn
and
off the
it
noise.
worked.
And
It
so,
turned off.
so
Okay.
so he's establishing trust. That's
Right.
part of your playbook too. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So, so throughout the conversation, the one thing he kept saying, he was telling me that my computer had been hacked. My phone line was hacked, my landline was hacked. And the thing that really got me was he started telling me that there was child porn usage on my computer.
That happens in 92% of cases.
Okay,
That
he said that at 4:30 in the morning, someone had gone in and started looking at child porn, and he proceeded to tell me that that was illegal. But the biggest thing that really got me was he kept saying, "Do you understand the seriousness of this? Do you understand that this is a crime? Are you understanding me?" And he had me repeat some the different things that he was telling me to believe, to make sure that I understood the seriousness of what was going on and that they
how did you feel when that was
oh, my
happening?
insides, I was like, my adrenaline was going, um, fear.
Yeah.
And then thinking that I did something wrong, and here I'm on the work computer and and then the other thought that I had was with him telling me that someone was looking at porn at 4:30 in the morning. I said, this is a business computer. Like no one is even here at 4 in the morning. So I don't know how that could be possible. But then I started thinking in my mind, did my son-in-law come in and do
Right.
something in the middle. So now I'm thinking these horrible thoughts.
That's what they do all the
Yeah.
time. And then guess what? You're now questioning whether a family member that
Yeah,
you love and trust is a criminal or doing something illicit or whatever. And guess what? You're no longer paying attention
exactly.
to the person who is asking you for information
And
and
he's
doing things like that.
distracting me,
It's
right?
distracting you. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm thinking these bad thoughts, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if my daughter, what if my daughter, what if this is really true?
Right. Do I need to tell my daughter? Yes, all the
Yeah, like, is this happening to my daughter? I mean, they have two young children. I'm like thinking all these horrible things. But he just kept going on. The next thing he told me that he kept putting me on hold, and then he was going to investigate what was happening with my computer.
okay.
So he'd put me on hold for a minute. He'd come back, and then he proceeded to tell me that 8 Chinese hackers had connected to my computer. And he kept saying, "Do you understand the seriousness of this?" And I'd say, "Yes, I do." I mean, I'm like, my adrenaline's going. I'm not even thinking logically
Sure.
because I'm panicking
Yes.
that something major happened to our computer because this was a business. We
Right.
have all kinds of customers' information in there. We have credit card information saved. The
Mhm.
first thing I'm thinking is, oh my gosh, all these customers that have credit card information,
Right.
what. So I'm thinking of all these other things, but he kept asking me over and over, "Do you understand the seriousness of this?
Hmm.
Can you repeat what I just said?"
Hmm.
So he'd have me repeat what I just said, right?
Right.
So
And by the way, I just want to add for people listening, that's part of the playbook too, because what they're doing is they're establishing authority so that you need to follow them. It's like if you're being interrogated by law enforcement or when you were a kid in the principal's office or anything like that. It's they do that to establish that they're the authority over you so that you will bend to their will. And it's human psychology again, but it is part of the hacker's playbook. And so that's one of the things people need to spot as well is like, they're not, they went from helper to making you feel like you're on the defensive and defending yourself,
yeah,
like you're
yeah.
falsely accused of a crime and everything, because that's a very powerful psychological technique.
Yeah, that scared me especially when he kept saying, "Do you realize this is a criminal act? Like you
Right.
could go to prison for this." I'm like, I have not done anything, with child porn. I don't know who could have, so I can't, I don't understand.
Hmm.
So, he proceeded to go on, and say that, he'd put me on hold again, come back, and he'd say some banking information has been compromised. And he started naming off all the different credit cards, and he would name the first number of the credit card. American Express starting with the number 5, American Express starting with the number 3, Discovery Card starting with the number 6, Visa starting with, and so I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like, he made it sound like they could find out everything about you just
Right.
by listening on the phone, listening to me talk to customer, just like
Hmm.
they could hear everything. So of course I'm looking in my wallet, and I'm like, well, I have an American Express card that starts with 3.
Hmm.
Well, we need to connect you with American Express. I'm going to connect you to their fraud department. I'm going to do it while we're on this secure line. I don't want you hanging up. I don't want you calling them. I'm going to connect you. So I said, okay. And of course, I'm still, panicking. And he said they're going to generate a hacking report and to stand by, and he'll get me connected. So I waited. And then the next thing I know, someone else answers the phone and introduces themselves from American Express and from the fraud department. And he started, um, to say, "Oh, I understand that your computer was hacked and, your cards have been compromised." And I said, just curious. It was really odd because when I was talking to him, I could hear this like wind in the background. Like
Mm.
it didn't sound like someone was in an office from American
Mm.
Express talking to me. So that was all of a sudden my
So
instincts.
your spidey senses were coming on.
Yeah, yeah, my senses just came up and I said, our connection sounds really strange. It doesn't sound like you're in a bill. I started telling him this. I said, it sounds like you're outdoors. Oh, no, no, no. I'm in New York City. I'm in the American Express building address. Blah, and he starts giving me the address. So while I'm talking, I'm like Googling American Express. And of course he gave me, well, I Googled the address and it was a legitimate address, but
Mhm.
something didn't feel right. I said, can I have your phone number? Because I think I need to call you back. Something just doesn't feel right about this call, so I'd prefer to just hang up and call you back directly. So he gave me the same number that was the 800 number that I had called originally.
That previously was Microsoft.
Yes, previously it
Okay.
was Microsoft. So I hung up and I decided to call my American Express on my card. So I called the 800 number, American Express. I got the fraud department. I told them everything that happened, and they said, Marie, that's definitely fraud. I'm so glad you thought to hang up and call us directly. So they went through
Yes.
the account and they said, there's been no fraudulent activity on your account, because he was telling me that someone had hacked into all my credit cards. So I, I was like very relieved. Well, the next thing I know, this other person calls me back, this John Foster, wanted to know why I got disconnected, what happened. I said, well, I decided to just hang up and call my daughter. I just thought I should let her know what's going on. And he got so upset at me. And he's like, why did you do that? I told you that your line wasn't secure. I said, well, you told me that my office line wasn't secure, but my personal cell phone line was secure. That's why you wanted to call me on my cell phone. I said, are you telling me now that my cell phone isn't secure? And he didn't know. I was just kind of throwing him for a loop.
Hmm.
And I said I wanted to talk to my daughter because this is their business now, and I wanted to let them know what was going on. Well, he got so upset because he said that he had given me a direct access to American Express, and just because of the fraud going on. I said, well, um, I'm gonna, call my son-in-law now. And I just hung up on him. And he tried calling me back multiple times, but I wouldn't answer the phone. And then that was it. But I called my son-in-law, let him know what was going on. Then I called my son, who was very into computers. He's a computer um, person. That's what he does for a living, and told them what happened. And the message was still on the screen. So when my daughter happened to be coming in that day, and she's the one that pointed out the misspelling
Hmm.
of the
Okay.
name. Yeah. So
But you still had the malware on the computer, which by the way, for everybody, if this is why you don't want to click on suspicious links and stuff, because even if you go to a website that doesn't look bad in of itself, if you leave that window open, you can get things like this downloaded onto your system, and most people aren't aware of that. So I'm so glad
okay.
you're pointing this out.
Yeah. So that's basically it. But the biggest thing that scared me the most was him constantly saying, do you understand the seriousness of this?
Right.
Do you
Because you
understand?
feel, so what was going through your mind? You were afraid you were going to get reported, or what
Yeah,
happened?
I was panicking. I thought,
Right.
well, I think I was more afraid that the system was compromised and I
Mm.
did something to make that happen. And how am I going to tell all these customers that our system was compromised?
Right, right. Well, all those people are very lucky that you were at the helm, because 43% of all cyber attacks are targeting small businesses
Mm,
like this one,
yeah.
because they have a lot of rich data, more than just an individual, and they have lower amounts of cybersecurity than the large corporations. So
Mm,
um, they're a very like, delectable treat for a cybercrime unit. And unfortunately, and this is what breaks my heart, 66% of small businesses that are attacked go out of business within 6 months
wow.
because it ruins the business. I've seen veterinarians, therapists, tax accountants, beauty salons go out of business from an attack. And unfortunately, because a lot of people start put it like what happened to me, I put higher security in place once I had been victimized, but you got to do it beforehand, especially if you're a small business in order to survive. So you are in one of you're in the minority, my friend, of somebody because you had a near miss and you caught it. So kudos to you.
Yeah.
But then secondly, you also weren't put in a position where you had to notify all of your customers of a breach because
Yes.
you didn't let that happen.
Right. Right.
So then what else happened when your daughter saw that? Did you get a picture of the
I
screenshot?
did. I did
Okay,
take a screenshot of it, or I took a picture with my phone just
right,
in case.
good.
Yeah, I just it's fun thing. It's funny. I never told my husband it was his. I have never to this day even mentioned that this happened because he's so about no one can get me. I don't, take calls of, from people I don't know. And
Well, here's the thing. If Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg can get hacked, anybody can get hacked. And
right.
cybersecurity people have gotten hacked and stuff. It's just the difference is maybe they don't have everything in one place, so they don't get access to everything. But,
Yeah.
there's no such thing as being unhackable. Even people have said, well, then I'm just going to throw my computer and phone into the pool and never be online again. It's like, well, no, it's because your data resides in every company you do business with. So when the company is hacked, your data is gone. And if you're not online and paying attention to it, you're even more vulnerable because they can just they can take out loans in your name,
Oh,
they can take out credit cards in your name. I've talked to parents who have college age children, and they're applying to get them in, and they're finding out that they have bad credit at the age of 17 because hackers are doing something now where they're taking their social security number and they're using a different name. They're using a name of an older person and a birth date of an older person. So they're
oh,
kind of creating a technically accurate, uh, there's accurate numbers, but it's not a single person's identity. And then, but your credit gets hurt in the meantime. And when you're trying to apply to college or you're trying to get a car loan or anything like this, if it takes months or a year or more to clear that up, and you could be missing applications for schools and loans. And so it's just really causing devastation to everybody. So I'm so
yeah.
glad that you brought this up and brought this to
Yeah,
our
thanks
attention.
for inviting me to share this story because it was probably one of the scariest things, but thank God I been paying attention to different things, what's going on in the world. Like we talked
Right,
about AI, how earlier you and I spoke, how AI is changing everything and how they
yeah,
can come in and imitate people. And
right.
we talked a little bit. So I've been, I'm a little more aware of what's going on out there. And even though
Mhm.
at first I panicked
Right.
and I started thinking, what did I do? Oh my gosh. There was that moment that I was like, this does not feel right. And what I would recommend, which I'm sure you share with everyone, I'm not the expert you are, but it's like when you have that sense of something is wrong, something doesn't feel right, pause right there.
Yes.
Pause and then stop. Like I hung up the phone
Right.
and I said to myself, I'm calling the source. And I know like my husband has talked to the banks and he's had different things happen. And they're like, come in, if you can come into the bank
Mhm.
versus calling the bank even to verify, that's even better to do. But
Right.
always, if you're not 100% sure that something's wrong, nothing is that um, drastic or panicky that you have to take care of it right that second. Pause, get off the phone if you're on the phone and make that call to your bank directly and
Right.
or your credit card or whatever it
Right.
is.
Well, and you bring up a great point because one of the things you did so well was look on the back of your card and call that number.
Yeah.
And what did happen to you happens to everybody, which is you see the number, it says call Microsoft. This happens when you get a text, it says your bank's trying to, so call this. So people are like, oh, you can't fool me. I'm gonna call and verify, but you're calling the number that the bad guys have given you, because again, that's a
Right.
psychological hack that they have on how to use human psychology because they are experts at this. So in that case, what you want to do is called Microsoft. Now, I just want to point out two tips there because this
Yeah.
happens a lot, whether you're calling your bank or Microsoft or American Express or whomever. One is because you're panicking, you're trying to call it. So the best thing you can do preventatively is today, when you're listening to this, before you go to sleep tonight, get your get your micro if you do Microsoft or you want to get those phone numbers into your phone so
Mhm.
that they're pre-programmed so that when you have that moment of like, oh my gosh, I have to call somebody, that you're calling the right number. Because when we get panicked, it's hard to search. Now, the other thing is people will then say, well, I'm not going to call the number they gave me. I'm going to go search. And that is true. But here's the other thing that happens. Hackers will take out Google ads that put them at the top. And even though they'll get caught maybe within 24 or 48 hours, so many people are literally decimated because they're one of the first people to see that ad and click on it. So before it can get taken down by Google or law enforcement or whomever, they could they could take out an ad saying, Microsoft support, and put that 800 number up there.
Mm.
So you're seeing this, you're saying, well, they can't trick me. I'm not going to call the number on that pop-up. I'm going to Google it. You never want to click on one of the sponsored links.
Yeah.
It might be valid. It might actually be a Microsoft ad, but because so many hackers take out ads falsely and they don't get caught right away, if you're within that window when it's still up, you could call the wrong number and have the same thing happen. And you're still on the hook for what happens,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Not Google, not Microsoft,
Right.
American Express. So always go down and then you're looking like if let's say Bank of America, you want to make sure it says BOFA.com, that it's the legitimate URL. And so that's why it's always best to have these phone numbers already in your phone, ready to go, so that
Yeah.
you're calling a number you've already verified. And that's like doing it's like doing fire prevention instead of putting out fires, right? Stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, you were so smart to call the back of the American Express card. A lot of people would not have thought of that. They still they call the number they're given by the hackers. And to your point, with the exception of that wind in the background, which was an interesting thing, most of the time they even hear legitimate call center noises
Mm.
because you can even play, there's sound effects you can have that you hear people typing in the background and stuff. They'll
Yeah.
play that even if they're solo sitting somewhere. They will have these legitimate sounding call center noises. And so again, we can't trust our ears
Right.
and
That's
we
a
can't
good
even trust our
point.
eyes anymore. And your daughter caught the typo,
Yeah.
but think of that. If, they put that through Chat GPT, it's not going to have typos anymore. So
Yeah.
you can't trust that
Well,
either.
I think they were getting ready to start asking me personal questions about my account. And one thing I know that when I call my different cards, like if I'm talking to a representative, they're not going to ask me what my PIN number is.
Mhm.
They're not going to ask me. That's something you put in before you get to that
But
representative.
see, that's good that you know that because a lot of people don't know that. So I'm so glad you said that because
Yeah.
and that's why, like, if you go to some of your banks or even your cell phone provider, they will actually have on their website, we will never ask you for your PIN.
Right.
But,
Right.
again, if you think you're calling a legitimate source and they ask you for your PIN, you're
Exactly.
going to give that to them.
Right. You think that, oh, okay, I'm talking and I've had that happen one other time. Someone was doing they start I got so close. This was a different call on something else, but they were about to ask me what my PIN number or the last four digits of my social security. And that was the biggest red flag. And I said, I need to get off the phone and call back.
Mhm.
So I hung up. So anytime they ask for your PIN number, they ask for the last four digits of your social security or even your bank account numbers, I would say that's fraudulent. Right.
Yeah, that is so great. And, so that is such great advice, Marie. And this is so great because you're not only, so you survived an attempt.
I did.
And what's great is you didn't survive and have to survive an attack.
Ah, yes,
But let me just say for that too, because not only from your own sake of having gone through this, but also as the coach that you are, a lot of people listening to this have been scammed or know somebody who did or gave out more information than they should have. And one of the key things in a hacker's playbook is to make you feel embarrassed and ashamed so that you don't even ask for help after you realize. A lot of people will get all the way through and give the information out and think, "Oh no, I shouldn't have done that."
Mm.
realize they've gotten hacked, and then not call a family member, a friend, or even law enforcement. The FBI estimates that only 1 in 5 or 1 in 10 cases is reported, and it's often because of, feeling of shame or something. So, as somebody who's been through this experience and is also somebody who helps people live their best lives, what would you like to say to our listeners?
Trust your instinct. Listen to your gut. I think, especially, well, women especially, as I work with women, our instincts are very strong.
Hmm.
And if you have that feeling, that gut feeling, pause and listen to what it's trying to tell you because it's probably right. So I would definitely say as the first thing, do that.
That's
And
great.
yeah,
And
and
if somebody's feeling, if they've been hacked or had a close call or gave out information they shouldn't have, and they're feeling shame or some kind of humiliation or and which is a negative feeling about themselves, what advice do you have for them?
well, first of all, it's not your fault.
Hmm.
So you can't take the blame. They are so good at what they do.
Right.
So if that does happen to you, whether you caught it and stopped it, or even I can't even imagine, I'm sure I like even with what happened and even with me stopping it, I had a little bit of guilt. Like I
Hmm.
couldn't sleep for a few days. I didn't even want to let my husband know that
Hmm.
I got that close to being, hacked,
Hmm.
you
Right.
know. Um, but I decided that I was proud of myself for catching it, but it's not your fault.
Hmm.
They are so good at what they do. So don't take the blame. Even if you do fall victim to that, I would suggest reaching out to, like someone like you, Jocelyn. I would say reach out to Jocelyn and let them know what happened so they can help you with the mindset because I'm sure there's tools, to help you get through the
Right.
fear and the guilt of, being a victim to a crime like that. Hacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the main thing is to just reach out and ask for help. You don't,
Yeah.
it's no different than if you got pickpocketed walking down the streets, or had your purse stolen. It's not
Right.
your fault. You're at the mercy of a criminal and a
Yeah.
scammer, and and you deserve help, and you deserve to feel safe again. So
Exactly.
that's
So
great.
definitely reach out for help. Don't let it fester. Don't let it take over. I could see how it could just completely take over your mind and bring that fear in. So yes, definitely seek out help to get through all that.
That is such great advice. And since I got into cybersecurity by being a victim of cybercrime, I know that all too well. I felt
Yeah.
such like, oh, how could I have let this happen? I thought it meant somehow I was stupid or something. And I'm happy to say that there's zero correlation between being a victim of cybercrime and IQ. I've
Yeah.
worked with people who are Mensa, which means the top 2% of IQ intelligence in the planet, and they have been hacked. And so there's zero correlation. You did nothing wrong. And the main
Right.
thing is, we we live in a different world than the when we were, when we were brought up, we were told, not to, we were told to look both ways before we cross the street. We were told not to take candy from stranger. We were given all these life skill advice. But the internet and cybercrime is so new. We didn't learn that when we were young. We're learning it now. And by everybody being here, they're already paying attention so they could be smarter and safer about this. And
Yeah.
your story is just so relevant because it's one thing to learn logical steps, which everybody needs to know, but to hear from people who have gone through what you've gone through just means so much to everybody battling this and wanting to stay safe and sane online in today's world. So thank you so much, Marie. And for people who would like to work for you, you work with women who are looking to create their next chapter. And
Yes,
if people want to learn more about you, and you have a podcast yourself, why don't you tell us
I
about your
do.
podcast and how
Yeah.
to reach you?
Yeah, my podcast is Embrace the Encore.
There you go.
It's inspiring women 50 plus who want to reinvent themselves later in life, or maybe have overcome adversity and stepped into their passions and dreams. And it's a great podcast. In fact,
It
there's
is a great podcast.
thank you, Jocelyn. And there's gonna an episode's coming out with Jocelyn, so I'm super excited about that. And then you can reach me at embracetheencore.com. And there's actually a free download for you if you're interested in,
Oh,
30,
that's awesome.
yeah,
That's great.
some steps
Great.
on how to create an amazing morning for yourself. So
That is awesome. And everybody can use that. And yeah, so that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Marie. I have the utmost respect for you, always have. And it's been a
thank you,
true
Jocelyn.
pleasure and honor to have you on the show. Thank you for sharing this with everybody. I can't think of a better public service announcement for people of knowing what it's really like to be on the receiving end and how to stay safe and stay sane online. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, everybody. That was another episode. And wow, what a special message we had today. I just want to remind you to stay safe and stay sane out there. And please share this with anyone that needs to hear it so that they can protect themselves. And if you could help us and help me on my mission to make more people safe online, please share this, like it, subscribe. You know the drill. Anything you can do will help us reach more people and help make us all safer. Thanks so much. Until next time, stay safe out there.